Hi everyone. I hope everyone is doing well and taking care of yourself in these really strange times. My name is Rebecca. Some people call me Reboba because I like to drink boba, or they could call me Rebby. So recently, as you all know, the world has been hit pretty rough by a series of really unfortunate events. It seems like a lot of people are really stressed, especially the incoming high school seniors and the incoming college freshmen. So, some amazing friends of mine, my fantastic high school college counselor, and myself have gathered together to create 3 videos, this one being the first one, that provides some advice to college applications, college life, and just major or career pathway advice. We just hope that these videos may be able to help alleviate at least a little bit of the stress that you guys are feeling. But since these videos are also just really long, I put a list of all the questions down in the description, along with like their associated timestamps, just to help you guys maximize efficiency. Good luck. Hope this will help, and please enjoy.
My name is Sneha. I go to Northeastern University. I'm going to be a rising sophomore, and my major is psychology, and I'm currently on the pre-med track.
My name is Swetha. I go to Duke University. I'm also a rising sophomore, and I am double majoring and minoring. So I'm double majoring in biology and global health and minoring education on the pre-med track.
Hi, I'm Serena. I'm a rising sophomore. I go to UCLA, and my major is computational and systems biology, which is just basically computational biology.
I'm Rebecca. I go to Duke University. I'm also a rising sophomore, and I'm doing some kind of combination between computational biology, visual arts, and music.
Hello, I'm Clara. I go to Carnegie Mellon University and I'm a rising sophomore as well. And I'm majoring in AI.
Grace, I'm a rising junior. I'm majoring in chemical and biological engineering at Princeton, and I have 3 certificates, is what we call it, but basically they're minors. I'm material science and engineering, neuroscience, and robotics and intelligence systems.
Catherine, MIT, rising sophomore, currently declared in the, this is a joint degree where it's like pretty flexible. You pick a humanities and a science, and so I picked comparative media studies and brain and cognitive science for that. I'm thinking about double majoring also mechanical engineering and like design, but I can't officially declare that until later.
Hi, I'm Kevin Zoe. I'm a first year computer science major at Georgia Tech.
Hi, I'm Sean Gaffis. I am all of these alumni's college counselor at Basis Chandler, and I am so proud of all of them and so excited for all of them and happy to be here to answer questions and to just talk about their experiences.
Hi guys, my name's Ruth. I just graduated from the University of Pennsylvania and I majored in nursing with minors in global health and human rights and religious studies. A fun fact about myself is that I don't know how to swallow a pill still, and I'm a nursing major.
Hi everyone, I'm Dorothy and I'm in the class of 2022 at the University of Arizona. I study neuroscience and cognitive science.
Hello, my name is Jane. I am a rising sophomore at Duke University and I study computer science and statistics.
Hi, my name is Jessica Shaw. I'm class of 2023, majoring in biomedical engineering, minor in chemistry, and I'll be pre-med at Duke.
Hello, my name is Jordan Blake, and I'm a senior at Duke University, and I study neuroscience with a minor in psychology. I love to sing, so there's my fun fact.
Hello, my name is Angela Can. In the class of 2023 from Duke University, I'm going to major in computer science, probably visual arts, maybe something else. Fun fact, I love cats and comedy.
Hey guys, so my name is Faith. I am a rising sophomore at Duke, so all the way in North Carolina. It's very far from home for me because I'm in Arizona with Rebecca, actually. So I'm thinking about being a computer science major.
Hi, my name is Alina Wang. I am currently a rising junior at UC Berkeley studying computer science and data science.
First and foremost, nobody is late for anything. Especially considering the pandemic or the quarantines at this part where colleges right now are still figuring stuff out. Throughout education right now, we are looking for guidance from health officials and from the government and from the departments of education and higher education. Things are changing constantly, and you've got to expect that to happen. But as far as applying to college in the 2021 school year, nobody's late for anything. They are going to be focused right now on getting the incoming freshmen in and settled and getting all of the existing students back to campus or online. So none of it is going to affect, a hurry up to do anything early in the college application realm. That said, researching the schools as far as their programs, what they offer, where you think you are interested in applying, what kind of school you want to go to, that kind of research is where you should be focused right now. But as far as applying to anything, don't apply to anything yet. The Common App is going to clear out everybody's account usually around August 1st. So anything you put in there is going to disappear anyway. So you've got time. There's no need to rush into it.
One thing I think you can do right now is talk to people, your friends, your teachers, your parents. Just talk about the experiences that you've had in school, what you're like as a person, your strengths and weaknesses. I think that often you'll find these different perspectives in your life can be really enlightening. You can find some cool stories that you probably wouldn't have remembered on your own.
But one thing I would encourage you to do is to spend some time to think about what you want to write, and try to think about it in terms of like with all the different prompts, and then narrow down on which ones that you think you have a better idea, like which one you want to answer more. And then once you've thought about it for like a good bit and you know the idea that you want to kind of write out, just set a timer for like 30 minutes and then just straight write it out, and don't think about like if it's like very beautiful in the words or if it's like grammatically correct. Just write it out, get it out, regurgitate it. And after that, what you can do is to whittle it down into the word count. But don't worry about the word count before you start. I would also advise you to think beyond the story when you're writing the essay itself. Like, for example, in the essay question of like, what's your greatest challenge? I wouldn't just like lay out the challenge and then say, yep, that's it. But you have to also include like an insight that you found through the challenge, and think about how this insight shows how you think and how you deal with challenges, something like a bigger life lesson that you've learned, that isn't like a generic like cliche life lesson, but something that's more specific to you and your experience. And to also, another part of this is also to show like what it says about you.
I also kind of wish that I had started to like look at my GPA and all the extracurriculars that I had and kind of decide like what are reach schools for me and what are safety schools and what are my target schools like earlier on, so that just way that I could have spent a little bit more time researching each school that I was applying to.
So I think it is like a really good thing to keep in touch with admissions offices. Like, so I'm a tour guide and student ambassador this year. So I was hanging out with the admissions ambassadors a lot and the admissions officers, and like talking to them and things like that, and they really do remember people's names. Like, they're really good at remembering people's names. It's kind of their job, part of their job. And so like when somebody asks questions and is really like interested and invested in a school, like they remember you when they're like reading your application or going through something. So I think if somebody was really interested in a school and has questions, I would totally go and ask and get to know your admissions officer as well.
I think when you are coming up with your list of colleges, like an exercise that I did was I basically drew myself, if that makes sense, and like kind of what my values are. So for me, things that are really important are good people. So I didn't want to be in a place that was super competitive, that where people were stepping over each other's toes. The second thing was I wanted to be in a place where entrepreneurship and startups were there, that there's a lot of resources and mentorships for it. And then third was like academic flexibility, because I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to study. And I wanted to be in a place where I didn't apply to like the engineering school and have to be stuck there with nowhere to transfer to somewhere else. So I would kind of like write down a list of like 1 to 5 things that are really what you care about. So that can be something as nitty gritty as like, I want to go to a startup school, or like, I want to go to a school that's like really great at, sports management. I don't know. There's like weird things out there. And then keep that on your list. So then when you go to every single school webpage, you can look for those like 3 to 5 things that you really care about. And if you're having difficulty thinking about what those values, so to speak, are, I think a good exercise to do is to look at people that you look up to, or maybe you have friends that are older than you that you frequently talk to and hope to be like, so to speak, and then look at like, how did they get to where they are? Is it because they had lots of great mentors? Is it because they utilized research opportunities, or whatever it is? So basically, how do they get there, and what schools have that? I would steer away from thinking too much about like, what is the ranking of computer science majors at this school? Because in reality, like it doesn't matter too much. I think maybe if you're actually trying to pursue like an academic career, so you want to be like a professor, you want to get a PhD later on, maybe that might matter a little more. But if you're the average person, like the major ranking in particular, I think is not something you should really care about. And neither should the school rating. Because in retrospect, I think my parents and I, like, we worried a lot about it, but it's not a big deal. One thing I will state, though, is that I think some school cultures are more conducive of some majors than others. So, for example, like, I wouldn't Duke, the CS major is the most popular major here, but I wouldn't consider us like a really big CS school. In the sense that, like, if you look at the jobs that people go into after Duke, it's less the percentage of CS majors is not equivalent to the percentage of people who work in software engineering, or anything similar to that. Like, a lot of people will jump ship and do like product management, they'll jump ship and do consulting or finance, because that's kind of how the mentality of our school is like, and what the goals of the people here are more similar to. So I keep that in mind, versus like, I'm guessing if you went to maybe like Princeton or something, there's like a bigger focus on academic research. And so if you actually look at the population of CS majors there and how many people end up doing academic research, is probably much greater than it is at Duke. So I would maybe care more about that kind of statistic than a ranking of someone's major program.
Other thing is that you should look into if it's more like a pre-professional college or if it's more a liberal arts college. Some colleges kind of combine both, like Penn, which isn't really like what the university sets out to do, but it just kind of happened. But yeah, each of these kinds of colleges has a specific culture to them that you may or may not fit well in. So, for example, like Penn has both, and I am not a huge fan of how the pre-professional culture has infiltrated Penn, especially because of Wharton. That's just my 2 cents on it, and I could talk more about it if you want to like contact me somehow. But because in pre-professional settings, there's kind of like a lack of connection that I found between people. Whereas I think in a more liberal arts setting, people are more open to like discussing and really getting to know you and your thoughts.
Looking for more informal methods of like communication about like the culture. So like the admissions page is like propaganda, right? So would definitely recommend looking at like if there are like personal blogs of like students, especially if the blogs talk about some more negative aspects of the college, then you know that it's more earnest and not like monitored to only show the good stuff. So like being able to see like both sides gives you, especially if they're from more current students, not like old alumni, because like the college back then is different than how the college is right now. All that kind of stuff, like all that kind of online internet digging, really helps like kind of like see more what the college is actually like.
Okay, I visited the colleges before I decided to apply to them. So at first, a lot of people, including Grace, actually said I really fit Emory. They're like, "Oh, I totally see you at Emory." And then like I went there, and my cousin was actually a student there. And then when I got there, she was like, "Yeah, don't come here. This is not right for you." And then like we visited the school, and like it's like, and then like I found out, I was like, "Yeah, this school like does not fit me whatsoever." So it was really good like visiting there, because I did like think of like applying early, or like yeah, it saved me from Emory.
Oh my God, that's literally, I almost had the same exact experience as Rebecca. Basically, like throughout my entire, like, since like ninth grade, okay, I'm not trying to like hate on any school, but like I thought UC San Diego was like my dream school. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna like, I would be a perfect fit there. I went and visited like the first time before applying, and I was like, wow, perfect school. Then I finished applying, got in, went for their welcome day. Oh, welcome days are important, guys. Like, I personally think welcome day can tell a lot about a certain school. But I went to the welcome day, and I just, the class sizes were so big for me. Like, I just couldn't, like, I like smaller class sizes. Like, majority of the classes that I have at Northeastern is like around 30 kids. It's just like a normal high school. So I get to know the professors a lot better. So, like, when I sat in there and it was just like a lecture hall of like 200 people, like, I was like, what Grace said, like, I felt like there's no attention on me, if that makes any sense. So, like, just putting it out there, you know, like, actually visiting the school and, like, seeing how it is can help base your decision for sure.
Another thing that I would say that really I think people don't take into enough account is like safety at colleges. Like some schools like that we visited, I personally didn't feel safe at. Like I felt like there was some dark force like haunting me, or like somebody like somebody literally like following us or something like that. Like I don't know, it just didn't feel like safe at night. Like that's why when we went and visited schools, we often used to like stay for the day, and then we like look at what it looked like at the night, if there were enough lights, if like the blue light system, if there were enough of those so that you could see 3 at one time wherever you looked, or if what the resources for safety are, because I know now, like, because at Duke now I come and go to library at like all hours of the night, or if I'm doing something fun with my friends on the weekend and we're out at like night, I want to have this feeling of safety with, even if I come back at like 2 a.m. or something.
This is where, again, getting back to researching schools, really getting to know schools, and the students getting to know themselves and what they want out of a college experience. I think these are the 2 biggest places where kids don't realize how much work there is to be done. You worry about tests, you worry about GPA, you worry about essays, but then falling into that list and And defaulting, let's say, to a list in a magazine or something like that is something that I think worries me a lot as a counselor, because you're depending on someone else's list and not your own list.
I've seen that a lot of people struggle with is sitting down with your parents. I've seen so many people just apply to all these colleges, and at the end of the day, they can't go to any of them because number one, they can't afford them, or number two, it's just too far away and their parents just don't want them to go there. Just having a simple conversation with your parents can make your life so much easier, number one. Number two is, I'm going to be honest, Northeastern definitely was not my first choice for a school. But the thing is, now, I'm so glad I ended up here, But the thing is, I first was just looking at, colleges that I thought I would be a great fit in. I was looking for more of a very, free environment, and something, I could do, I could have, a good social life in as well. And I ended up, Boston as a city. I loved it. Especially since we're from Chandler, it's very a suburban area, and I wanted something that's different. And I had a talk with my parents, and I just sat down with them and talked to them about how much they could afford, since it was both me and my sister going to college at the same time, and they were okay with the price. So that was a big consideration when I applied to all these schools, because a lot of the schools that I applied to were private universities. And I think that one of the biggest factors when I was deciding was I don't know if it's going to be fair this spring, but there was actually a college fair that was happening my junior year, and I would just basically my sophomore and junior year I would just go to all these college fairs, just to see what kind of schools there were, and talking to the reps, and that kind of helped me form my decision. Also, I think that alumni from those, from your school or any schools that you're interested in can help you a lot.
So there are a few colleges with early scholarship deadlines that I didn't know about till much later. For example, I think USC and Vanderbilt has this program. So definitely look into those when you're compiling your college list.
And I would also say that one big regret I had from when I was narrowing down my college list was not reaching out to alumni or current students at these undergraduate universities when I could. For example, Princeton's neuroscience department is not the best for undergraduate, but of course, that's not on their website. That's not something that would be searchable by me. I would only know that by talking to alumni. So I also didn't know that before coming here, because I was thinking maybe it would be neuro, but then the undergraduate program wasn't great. So
as someone who is beginning to prepare for the medical school application process, I sometimes think about how nice it would be to be enrolled in a combined BS and MD program, because it secures you a spot early on and it alleviates so much stress in undergrad.
The only thing I would say is distance from home. I know maybe not everyone feels this way, but when I was, looking for a college, I was I'm ready to leave. I don't want to be in Arizona anymore. I want to get away from home. And now that it's been a year, I miss home. I don't mind being in Arizona so much. So, definitely moving across the whole country or moving to a whole nother side of the world is, a large factor, I would say. I mean, of course, it's a good growing experience, and, you'll be okay wherever you end up, but just something to think about.
During the application process, I didn't think it would bother me. If it was small or large classes, I didn't think I had a preference. But in retrospect, I definitely do not like large classes. The largest classes I've been in here have been 200, maybe 300 people. But I just don't enjoy large classes. The professor to student ratio is not great. I don't get enough attention on me, kind of. But yeah, I like smaller classes. That was also something to consider.
So my thoughts on this is that I think it's pretty dependent on your personality and where your priorities lie. So I kind of look at college growth in 3 factors. So one is like socially, one is academically, and the third one is professionally. And so it depends on the person. For me, I care more about professional development and social development than I care about academics. So to me, it makes more sense to go to a large university where there's a greater network of people and alum to reach out to when searching for jobs, as well as just more people to hang out with.
It's your own personal goals and needs. What I do recommend is like making a side-by-side list of the pros and cons, and that way you can look at each pro. Like for instance, large school has maybe one of the cons is it's really competitive. Well, if you are a competitive person, you're like, yeah, I can't wait to like beat down the rest of my classmates. Okay, then maybe that's not a con at all. You can like cross it off your con list. So you can look at the pros and the cons and sort of see which one of those really matter to you personally and just like alter that list. So then you can really get a clear image of, okay, how many cons are there? Are there any that are really overwhelmingly bad for each school? And then once you do that, it's a lot simpler. So the point of the reach target safety system is to make sure that you're not holding yourself back and you're also not setting unrealistic expectations for yourself. So if all your schools are reach schools, I would be worried because the possibility there is you don't get into any of them. If you're unlucky, then you don't have a college to go to at all. So then you should probably add some targets and some safety schools just for fallback in that case. Now, if you're on the other end and you just have safety schools, then you probably want to ask yourself why. So obviously your choice of schools depends on where you want to go in life. Not everybody has to go to Harvard to like get to where they want to be. But if you're choosing not to apply to more competitive schools because you're like, oh, I'm not going to get in, like, but you might be interested, go for it and apply anyways. In the worst case, you will get rejected, and okay, then you'll just go to the school that you were planning on going to in the first place. And if not, you might actually get somewhere you never expected to be. So consider why you're not applying to more reach schools or target schools, and think about that.
Yes. Yes. Especially because these like top schools also have a lot of resources to help people study better. Not even because it's competitive, but just because they want their students to do well. And I think like all schools want this. So like there's a tutoring center where you can get free tutoring, and there's like workshops on like how to study for finals or how to write essays and stuff. Yeah, and also, not everyone is competitive at a school that's competitive to get into. Because, like, some of the people I've met, in fact, probably most of them are really chill and not competitive. But another part of it is also the program that you're in. So, for example, Wharton, the business school, has a curve. So, understandably, people are more competitive in that. But then also, people also help each other a lot in those programs. It's not as cutthroat as it really seems on paper. But then for my school and my studies in the nursing school, there's no curve, so people are very willing to help each other. And just because we're nurses, we're also nice, so, that helps. But for something like pre-med, that might be more competitive. But I think the classes are just hard in general, so people just like to help each other and need help too.
I think the best way to figure this out is to actually find students that currently go there and ask them how they feel about the competition. Because I think that it's a pretty valid question and thing to feel about. So personally, for me, Duke, I would consider as like a pretty good school, but I don't think it's competitive at all, at least as like a CS major. And I kind of got that vibe when I went on campus and like talked to people. So if you can just find your way through like connections or even emailing Duke, they have like admissions and seeing like, hey, can I talk to a current Duke student and just learn more about the school, and they'll connect you with someone. That's like a great way of figuring out if the school is competitive first. And secondly, I think it also depends on where your mentality is. So like if you are someone who really wants to be pushed and like really wants to challenge yourself, I would say like just apply to the competitive school because you'll adapt to your environment and hopefully you won't be too sad about it. I think, I mean, you always hear like horror stories of like some kids like really not having a great time because like school is really hard, things like clubs and everything's are really hard to get into. Um, but I think the average student, like these are really rare cases, I would like to think. The average student is probably more so like all right. So keep that in mind. And then I'd say like my third thing though is that in my opinion, it's better to be at a school where you don't feel like you're at the bottom of your class or you don't feel like you're really just like struggling to just do school, because a big part of college is the clubs, the extracurriculars, making friends, meeting with professors, meeting with mentors. And so in that situation, sometimes it's better to just be at maybe like an easier school, but where there's more opportunity for you to have leadership and to um, really like drive your career, versus if you're somewhere else where the academics are just so much more difficult and you're going to be spending all your time studying and you won't be able to do these really awesome things that I think are more important in propelling your career.
Ask yourself whether this is an issue of like self-esteem, or if there's like you have certain issues that you're worried about specifically. So everybody that I know at least struggles with at least a bit of imposter syndrome, and they like wonder, am I really qualified to be here? Even if they got let in, like, are you sure I could succeed? And so that's really just like, don't hold yourself back. If you have the resources to do so, feel free to like apply. If you get rejected, then that just means, okay, you weren't ready, and that's okay. And then if you do get in but you're still scared of maybe not succeeding because it's very competitive, think about it would be easier to, like, if you get into Harvard, it'll be way easier to transfer from Harvard to ASU than be going to ASU and be like, this is really easy, I want to go somewhere more challenging, and being like, I want to go to Harvard now. So you can start from the top, and if it's hard and you really can't take it, you can always transfer away. There's no shame in doing something like that. But if you can push yourself, that's always good. If you have even a general idea, go from there. And you can take some of this quarantine time to explore your own interests and take some online courses. There's a lot of really great free resources online that you can learn from, like MIT OpenCourseWare. There's a lot of there's a Harvard resource, I think. But just like educate yourself now. But also, if you just genuinely don't know what you want to do, there's some schools that are really major focused. You probably don't want to apply to those. For example, like Caltech is a tech school, so you want to know before you apply to schools like that. But other schools have a really open curriculum. I think that's an actual thing, the open curriculum, like Brown or something, I forget. But so look at the schools that encourage exploration and diverse academic interests, and then those are probably where you would want to look then. Just make sure that you don't frame your lack of a specific direction as disinterest, or just you're lost and you have no idea what you want to do. Because it might feel that way, but you can also consider this as an advantage, that you're not locked into one point yet. You have a lot of things you can explore. This can be a strength for you, especially if you're applying to one of those schools. So make sure that you don't let it be a negative.
I think don't worry too much about majors right now. If you know what major you want to study, fantastic, but chances are a good half of you are going to change majors, sometimes in the middle anyways. If you're not quite sure about your major, a lot of liberal arts schools don't let you choose a major until midway through anyways, and even some of the least flexible schools will give you some options in changing majors. I go to a pretty major-oriented school where we don't have a lot of core classes, and about 20 to 30% of people I know have or are planning to change majors right now. So
I didn't really seem it didn't really seem like the major you chose when you were applying mattered a whole lot. Like I applied as a chemistry major, I think, and I'm now computer science major, and it changed from chemistry. I didn't even take a chemistry class my freshman year. Yeah, I don't know how much it really matters. I wouldn't stress too much about, you know, what you apply as.
Obviously you have to write one for pretty much every college, and the way that I did it was, I kind of had a general theme that I wanted to write for all of my Wally College essays. And for me, like, I'm really passionate about political polarization and how that relates to media. And so what I would do is I went to every college and I found what department or like lab was doing something within that space, whether it was like the college is building fact-checking algorithms or trying to determine bias in media or doing studies about it, or if there were clubs. Honestly, I feel like writing about research is better than writing about clubs, and my reasoning for that is that, to be honest, I'm not sure if the school knows or the admissions reader will know all the clubs that happen on campus more than the actual research labs. Anyway, side note. So when you're approaching the white college essay, come from the perspective of like, hi, my name is Jane. Like, here are all the projects that I've done in the past, and I'm really passionate about this particular theme or particular topic because of XYZ. And I see that your college is doing research in this area and they're at the forefront of whatever it is, and I want to be part of that lab and I want to work with them and take the knowledge that I have done in the past and contribute there so that whatever end goal it is. So that's how I wrote my essays. And I think what most people don't do and what they should do is finding professors in that particular lab, for example, as just a high school student, email them, because everyone's email is online, and be like, hey, I'm super interested in this. Can I just like talk to you about maybe like a paper that you wrote, or just get like an opinion on this idea that I had? I really just love to learn more. And then do that call, have a great time with it, and keep in mind that you'll probably have to email like 10, 20 people before you probably get a response, especially since it's summer, but it's definitely worth it. Then you can write in your essay, hey, I talked to Professor XXX about this, and I'm super excited about it. And the reason why this is a really great thing to do is because it really shows that you care about that school, and you like, because everyone can go online and in a couple seconds and like look up a lab, but not everyone's going to take the effort to really go talk to someone at the university. So that, I think, is a really great strategy.
This might sound like a joke, but I think one thing that can really help you understand a school is by going to its subreddit, and not just the serious parts where students ask questions and whatnot. I think there's a lot you can learn about a school and its student body by looking at their inside jokes and memes and stuff. I didn't even think about this when I was applying, and it's something that I really wish I did more of.
Look into the faculty members at that school, and to see if there's one that you would like to study under specifically. And also have a good idea of like what you want to do when you get to that school, the groups that you want to be involved in, whether it's like cultural groups or performing arts groups, or like research, work study, jobs, classes you want to take. Just make sure to be very specific and show that you have done like research on that school itself, and not like it's a generic essay that you like copied and pasted from another college. Why this college essay? Yeah, because I think they also really like to read it and like kind of have their like egos, fulfilled.
And I would also say, like, one of the best pieces of advice I got especially when I was writing my essay and doing all this like college application stuff, was stop making it what you think that they're gonna want to hear. Like, especially when I was writing my essay, like I scratched my entire first Common App piece because I was simply stating a resume to them, except in essay form, and they already have a section for extracurriculars on the Common App. They don't want you to reiterate that and be redundant on your Common App essay or on your essays for why this certain college. Instead of putting down what you think they want to hear, put what you're genuinely interested in and what's genuinely unique about yourself and how that could relate to the colleges you're applying to, rather than, you know, giving them whatever they want to hear, because most of the time you giving them whatever they want to hear is something that they've already heard like thousands of times and they're probably tired of hearing. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with Sweta on like the college, like the app writing process. Like, you can't really figure out what a person reading your application is going to think anyway, so you might as well write about things that you're actually interested in. So I don't know. My strategy was to like look through my colleges that I was applying for, and like, because I like art, so like find stuff that they did that was like art related, like any clubs, organizations they had, like things like that, to show that you've done some sort of like exploring about like their college, I guess. And then I didn't have as many colleges that I applied to as Sneha and Sweta. I think my approach was a bit different. I was also scared I wasn't going to get into anything, but then I think the way I did it, because I'm not a great writer, so like all the essays took me like really, really long time to finish. So I like sort of just chose, I think I had like 6 or 7 or 8 schools that I was like, I'm gonna get these done first. And then after that, it was like sort of like ranking the schools in which order I wanted to go in, and then doing the applications in that order. And I was like, well, if I get them done, I get them done. If I don't get them done, well, I guess I didn't get them done. But yeah. So I think I was a bit less stressed in the beginning and more stressed at the end.
I think I had a kind of similar approach as like with Clara, where I'm a really slow writer, so I figured I probably shouldn't apply to that many because otherwise my essays are just not going to be that great. I think I only applied to 5 schools because it was also because like I was factoring like location in my major. It's like not all colleges have computational biology, so that already definitely helped me like limit how much I was going to apply to. And then from there, it was like just apply to all the ones I really, really want to get into, like at least one safety school, the reach schools I really want to get into. And then from there, it's like if I had more time, I would apply to it, the other schools that I was still interested in.
I absolutely hated standardized testing. I took the SAT twice, and was done with it afterwards. And then I took a lot of APs though, like a ridiculous amount of APs, I'm not gonna lie. But honestly, I really don't mind the AP tests because I felt like to some extent they were measuring my knowledge more than, for example, the SATs were. I don't remember the exact number, but I want to say that I took like 17 AP classes or something ridiculous like that. Test-wise, I probably only took like 12 or 13. But that's like totally overkill, so don't stress yourself out with that. It's absolutely unnecessary. My thoughts on the SAT versus Jesus, I can't ECT. I think it doesn't matter, and I think schools actually don't even require a lot of the testing anymore, but that being said, I would still take it. I would choose one and study really hard for it, and then if it absolutely just like doesn't go well, maybe try the other one to see if you're better at it. For me, I'm a really slow test taker, and I know the ACT is a lot faster paced, so I ended up not even trying it, and just going ham on the SAT, albeit to be honest, I didn't do that well on the SAT. But I was able to use the super score opportunity where they take your highest math and highest reading score and you can submit that instead of your combined math and reading writing score for one school. And then for subject tests, I took like Chinese, chemistry, math, and like US history. I think I definitely bombed US history because I thought like if I took the AP test and knew everything there, I could take the US history test, which is totally not true because the subject tests are significantly more memorization, of which I'm not great at. Like, to be honest, I think I only do well in APs because I can write the essays. Um, so if you know kind of what you're better at, that might be something to keep in mind. So like if I don't know if this is really true, but some people have told me like if you bomb an AP test and you do well on the subject test, at least you can show that you're not totally incompetent in a particular subject. But it's honestly all up in the air. I would take whatever you think you can do well in, and whatever is manageable, and don't make testing a priority because even for your own personal growth, there's so many other things you could be doing, whether that's like clubs, actually taking really awesome classes, doing research, having a job. I would just make sure you have like the bare minimum of like the SAT and take the APs for any AP class you've taken.
So the interesting thing is if the UCs come out with their own test, because they're talking about creating like a UC test. And I mean, for them, it's another way to make money too, right? But they're talking about doing a UC test and you'd have to take that test. And now, God forbid, every college comes out with its own test to take.
I hate that idea.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the UC does. The essays are going to become way more important. Yeah. They're going to spend a lot more time on those essays. They're going to spend a lot more time designing their own essays. Georgia Tech just announced they're not going to look at the Common App essay, the long essay. They're going to do 2 short essays, and they're going to be Georgia Tech specific.
It really doesn't matter that much, especially in the time of pandemic. Rather than like scores, I think they would much rather look at how you are spending the time to reach out to other people. But to answer the question, generally, do not quote me on this. I would say SAT scores around 1500, and then for AP tests, mostly 4s and 5s, and for GPA, around a 3.9 would be really, really good if this is for a reach school. But each school also has like published their own stats on the scores and GPAs of their general student body. So it would like be a lot more helpful if you just look at those and see where you fall in there. Again, don't stress on scores and GPA too much. They cannot evaluate you as a person based on these scores.
By definition, ED is an early decision application in that you are applying early to that college and you are basically signing your half of the contract that says if you are accepted, you are coming and you are not going to apply to any other schools. It is a contractual or what's known as a binding application. So again, what that means is you are applying and signing that you will come, and it is the school's decision to either initiate the contract or not, but you are initiating the contract there on an early decision. More and more schools are moving away from early application and going early decision because there is a trend among the colleges that too many people are applying EA for the wrong reasons. So that being said, let's talk about early application. Early application is just that. It is applying to the school at an earlier deadline. It is not binding in any way. You still have until the following May to decide if you're coming or not. The implication of EA or early application is that this is one of the top schools for you. If not the top, one of the top schools for you. And you are applying early with the intention of, if you get in, taking that spot. It's important to you. They are falling out of favor in many of the schools because they are not being used as one of the tops. Too many kids are applying to 20 schools EA. And that means that schools are reading a lot of applications early and then taking acceptances, and the kids are not, and offering acceptances, and the kids are not taking them. They are still going through and applying to a whole bunch of other schools. So there is a trend among schools now to drop early application for early decision because of the abuse of the early application process. And I think that trend is going to continue to grow because of the abuse of that early application process. REA, there are only a couple of schools left that do REA. REA is what's known as restricted early application. And by that, they mean you are only going to apply to one school on an early application. You are not bound, but you're only applying to one of them. And I will pick on Stanford University. Stanford University is an REA. If you're going to apply early application to Stanford University, it should be the only school you apply to early. And you are on hold for regular application for everything else. And then finally, RD is regular decision or regular application. You can apply to as many of them as you want to. And you then, typically the deadline is New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, and then you have until May to decide which one of the ones you get accepted to, which one you attend. So that's kind of an update of what they mean and the trends among them. And that being said, overall, that issue of too many kids applying to too many schools, EA, is the same for too many kids applying to too many schools, period. You know, when we get into the 20 and 30 colleges that kids are applying to application-wise, you're not really interested in attending all those schools. And you're spending a boatload of money to do it.
I applied early action to MIT, and then I got deferred, and then I got rejected, and it was really sad. And in retrospect, I don't think it was smart, because I noticed that throughout my application process, my essays and everything got so much better. Like at the end, in the beginning of January, when those like last deadlines for all those colleges happened, like my essays were, I would say, are at least like 5-6 times better than they were in the beginning. And to be honest, I felt like if I sent that essay to the college that I applied early in, like maybe would have done better. I mean, it's all up in there. I don't really know. So I would say that for EA in particular, I would only do it if it's a school where if you got into it, you know that you wouldn't have to apply to a significant amount more. So for example, like if you had like a bunch of safety schools and then you had like a target, reach, dream section, right? And you EA into not the school that you like really, really are excited about and that would be a reach for you, but to a school that you feel like you could comfortably get in more of like a target range, apply to that one EA, because then if you get in, you don't have to apply to your safety schools because you know you already got into somewhere, and it'll save you so much time and a lot of brain space. So those are my thoughts on EA, because if you look at the rates of acceptance for EA, usually it's not much higher, and sometimes it's actually lower than regular decision. ED, on the other hand, the acceptance rate is significantly higher. Like Duke ED is like 18% versus normal is only 6%, so it's significantly more. So if there's a school that you really, really are excited about, honestly, I would apply ED because your chances of getting in are just higher. But know that like this has to be like it. Yeah, for restricted early action, same thing, like along the same lines. Like if this is a school that you know will let you get rid of your applying to safety schools later on, I would do it. But also check that the restricted early action acceptance rate isn't lower. Or honestly, if it's the same as normal, I would still wait because your essays are going to get better.
Story time. I was waitlisted by Duke, and when that happened, the first thing that Ms. Gathis told me to do was to send letters and emails to my regional admissions officer. So they are the first people who get to come to your school for college visits, and they're also the first people who get to look at your applications, and they're also the people who get to vouch for your spot in the college. So they're pretty important. So by contacting them, you are showing continued interest, and it's really good to update them on any new accomplishments, achievements or leadership opportunities or life lessons that you have learned since first applying to the school. You also get bonus points if you state that if you are admitted, you would go to their school for sure, because they really want to boost their statistics. So for me, I sent 3 emails to the Duke Regional Admissions Officer for my area, and then he replied, and eventually I got in before May, which is really cool. Before you do this though, make sure the college published the list of regional admissions officers, because some of them don't, unfortunately. And also make sure that you check the stats of how many kids from the waitlist that they actually accept every year, because some schools don't accept kids from the waitlist. So it is better to work hard on a waitlist letter for a school with some chance of accepting you rather than a school that accepts 1 or 2 kids off of the waitlist every single year.
Get your waitlisted letter, read it all the way through. This is important because every single university has its own waitlist policy. It has its own requirements that you need to fulfill in order to get onto the waitlist. And so in this case, if you get waitlisted at a UC, you have so in order to opt on to the waitlist, meaning to get your name on the list, you have to write another additional essay. It's pretty short. I think it's 500 words, so it's not bad. But yeah, you have to write an additional essay, and then you have the option of uploading your transcript from first semester of senior year. Because with UC apps, they only take up to your junior year when you apply. Yeah. So so definitely read all the way through, because for the Berkeley waitlist letter, it was at the very bottom, I remember. So yeah, and there's been a lot of cases. I'm sure there's a lot of cases where people get waitlisted and then they don't read the letter all the way through, and then they don't write the essay in order to get on the waitlist, because they think they're already on the waitlist, and then they obviously don't get into the university because they never wrote the essay to get on.
Be the best version of your authentic self that you can be. So don't try to be fake and all that stuff, but you also want to present the best sides of yourself. So if you're nervous, that's pretty natural. Usually your interviewer will try to just ask some general questions before they get into the nitty-gritty, just because they know you're nervous. And just be polite. Make sure you ask questions as well. Be engaging. Don't just sit there and be I'm waiting for you to ask me a question. I'm done now. I will not speak. Interact. Show the interviewer that you're genuinely interested in, that you've done your research, and be a personable person. You don't have to be perfect, but try not to be awkward.
Learn how to talk to adults. So yeah, know how to try to talk to adults more, and yeah, they're another person. Actually, they want to know more about you, especially because the interviewers are alumni of that school. So they want to see how you fit into that school, and don't just regurgitate your resume, but include a lot more information in your interviews, that show more of your personality and who you are. So things what you like to do for fun, the things that you're reading recently, yeah, things like that.
One subpar interview, or if it doesn't go perfect, it's not gonna ruin your life. You'll end up where you're supposed to end up, and I think that believing in that, trusting in that is important, and it can be comforting. Also, I would suggest talking about your interests a lot, and your passions, and kind of where you see those going in the future and how you'd want to pursue them and that kind of thing, because that was a lot of our conversation, and they really just want to get to know you and see whether you'd be a good fit for that school.
So first off, do this early. Don't go in like first day of school and be like, so you're the teacher, I'm gonna ask for a rec letter, because that's, I don't know, weird. But usually teachers will be like, okay, I'm opening myself up for rec letters now. Sometimes they'll be like, okay, give it to me in this time period. Outside of that, I will not take any. So make sure if you find out which teachers you want to write your rec letter, you know when to ask them for it. Do early as possible, because that's a courtesy to them. So who should you ask? You want to do a teacher that you've like actually interacted with in some capacity. If you like tutor for a teacher or you like help them out, sometimes it's good to have a genuine conversation with them, because they're there to attest to what your like extracurriculars and numbers don't show. So probably try to pick a teacher that like, you know, has seen who you are, not just like your academic performance. So it doesn't have to be teachers. You might have other people in your life. Do not ask a family member. But like, you might have like other tutors. You might work with some people, maybe a coworker. I don't know. Just people that you think know you and know the good side of you.
Teachers that you've worked with per se, like outside of the classroom, maybe you were like spearheading a club, like you were the VP of some club, and this teacher was your sponsor, and you had to work with her this whole time to like figure out trips and activities, you know, like basically teachers who you've worked with and got to see you be you outside of the classroom, right? Because like when they see you outside of the classroom, you know, typically like you'll probably know that teacher on a deeper level, and they'll know you on a deeper level, so they can confidently write stuff about you, so that then the colleges will know who you are, essentially.
I would say like, I feel like colleges look for like quality rather than quantity. So like if you're committed to something for like a long period of time, that looks a lot better than like you having like a million things on your application. I would say honestly just like follow your heart when it comes to this. Like follow your heart and like do what you like, because if you naturally do what you like, you'll be like naturally committed to it and you will naturally want to do your best. But yeah, good luck.
I think leadership roles and research or like independent projects are really awesome, because they show a lot of different things amongst like leadership, taking initiative, creativity, drive, like individual thought. So I make sure to highlight all of those if you have them, and especially make sure that you include activities where you spent a lot of time on them, because it shows like what you spent your time doing, even if it's, you know, like I've heard of people who write that a big part of their time as a high schooler was helping parents or like babysitting people, and I think sometimes like if that's what you genuinely spent a lot of time in, you should put it on there. Yeah, but I don't think there's like particular activities that you should put versus not. Just put things that you spent a lot of time in, and then any leadership, independent projects, any independent like writing their blogs or like a YouTube channel like you did on your application.
I think something that would make it stand out is something that you have been involved in for a long time, especially before junior year, like starting before junior year, because I think colleges know that people kind of like start doing stuff junior year because they're like, college admissions, like I have to apply to college soon, so I have to do something. But yeah, just like try to highlight things that you've been involved in for a long time. And also try to highlight things that are more unconventional about your application or just about you in general. Like even if it's something that isn't reflected in your resume, if there's a life experience that you've had that's not conventional, you can include that in your essays. And just to make your application more holistic.
I think it doesn't really matter what activities go on your application. Just be sure to show your passion and energy in that activity. Don't think that doing a lot of things will create a successful application. Because why would a college pick someone who is mediocre at 15 different activities when they could very well pick 15 individuals that excelled in those very same activities?
Try to make sure that it fits into a narrative about yourself. So try to have an idea of like what you want them to take away from reading your application. So it could be something like, I am very I like to solve problems and I'm innovative. Or it can be like, I really care about helping other people, you know. Try to make sure that like the essays, the activities, like classes and recommendation letters also highlight that, because you can also tell your recommenders to like include, kind of like just tell them what you want them to highlight.
Take a moment and appreciate everything that is high school, because I think when I was a senior I was very like, I hated high school. Like I hated just being in Arizona, and I was so sick and tired of just being in like my home and like that little like small like square block of Chandler. And I just wanted to get out and go explore the world. But the world is so complicated and the world is so hard that oftentimes in college I just sit in my room and I'm just like, damn, I miss high school. Like I really wish like college was just as easy as high school.
It's gonna be stressful, especially as you're applying to colleges, because there's so many unknowns, and it's okay that there's so many unknowns. Try to think of it as a process that will help you learn more about yourself, and you will learn more about yourself. And also remember that college is more about what you make of it, regardless of where you go. And the college itself, like which college you go to, doesn't necessarily matter as much as you probably think it does, which is something that I didn't realize until later. Like I've known very, very many unhappy people at Penn, and because there's so much pressure at somewhere like Penn, people feel like they're constantly not living up to it, and they're seeing like all these other people like succeed, even though like everyone is kind of just struggling also. There's this thing called Penn face where like everyone's like happy on the outside and doing perfect, but then on the inside like they're like struggling a lot, and then there's no one to talk to. But yeah, like anywhere you go, there's going to be opportunities and really interesting classes and amazing professors. And it's more about what you do with all those opportunities and people rather than the place in the college itself.